trying times for this wonderful state of Ohio, and as difficult as it may be, I'm convinced that John Kasich is the right person at the right time to lead this state. He's going to be a great governor, and he's correct. A few years ago, I began meeting with him and some other folks and offering my advice for what it was worth, and was wishing him the best and hoping he could become the governor and do great things. But as time went by, I became drawn in and got excited. I would go home and tell my wife about how things were going to be different under John Kasich, and so I got drawn in, and for the last year or so, I've wanted to do this, and more so than ever the last few months. So it's really an honor for me to be a part of this administration. And as John said, the transportation system is critical to the welfare and prosperity of the state. It impacts, I don't know if you've thought about this, but it impacts everybody every day. It impacts your safety, your economy, and your quality of life. It naturally follows that we need a professional, efficient, effective Department of Transportation. And that's what we're going to be about. I'm pleased to be here. I'm excited about the opportunity to work with the Kasich administration and to work for the people of Ohio, and certainly with the people of Ohio.
Know about this, and it's pretty darn impressive. Jerry, when he was the director, reduced operating costs by $200 million, and this is really amazing. Cut the workforce by 1,800 people. No one knew it happened. You know, they asked Jim Rhodes one time, how many people work in the Department of Transportation? He said, well, about half. And but maybe to some degree, this is what Jerry was able to do to bring greater efficiency. ODOT increased its construction program by $300 million from its output in the 1980s. The significant thing, and I really always had a hard time getting my arms around it, but they had almost 2,000 fewer people. And no one complained, and no one noticed. They just managed. And it's really, really significant. And as you look across the government, you find, I know it might come as a surprise to the taxpayer, government is not that efficient. And this demonstrates an ability, and probably could have done a lot more had he been given the opportunity to push even farther. But we are going to have all the directors in all of our government operations look at a significant improvement in productivity and basically ability to downsize where appropriate. So we'll take a few questions.
Well, if Mr. Wray already did a lot of cutting and efficiencies, what's the possibility that there isn't that much more to cut in the department? What's left to cut?
I think there still is. There's certainly room for improvements and efficiencies, and since I was there's new technologies that can help a lot. So yeah, there's room for opportunity for more improvement, more efficiency.
You haven't been there for a while.
Haven't been there for a while, but I'm confident that's the case.
The state has a process now for deciding which projects get funded in what order. Do you anticipate changing how those projects are selected?
Actually, when we were there before, when I was there before, we put the track process in place. It has changed some since I left, and we'll be looking at that process and how it's working, hoping to put an emphasis on economic development and jobs so that projects are focused not only on taking care of the transportation system, but making sure we're doing what we can for the economy of Ohio.
From what you've seen...
Let me also say, Mark, in a way that's, that's positive. When I said to Jerry, there are no promises, he almost fell off of his chair. Okay, you draw the conclusion from that without my having to say it and get somebody uptight here in the holiday season. The fact of the matter is, nobody's leaning on anybody for this project or that project. And let me tell you where that philosophy comes from. That philosophy comes from the days when I was in Congress. I didn't ask for earmarks. As Budget Committee Chairman, I never showed favoritism to any particular group. These decisions get based on the merits. Now, sometimes it gets to be a close call, admittedly, right, Jerry? I mean, sometimes you say this project, this is really making. Let me give you one other thing we talked about and thought about yesterday. People say if you put this road in here, all these businesses will come. I kind of look at things a little bit differently. Tell me who's coming, and then we'll decide who put the road in. I mean, the build it and they will come philosophy was in the Field of Dreams. That was a movie. Okay? So we don't have enough dollars to just be sprinkling it around doing guesswork. We've got to make the best determination that if we put a road in, if we improve a highway, that improvement is clearly going to lead to economic opportunity and development. I'm just going to tell you, in my opinion, I've known porkers for a long time. And when you're a porker, you don't make decisions on the basis always of what makes the most sense for the taxpayer. Sometimes there's a lot of political up and leaning and everything else. Jerry has had more phone calls from more people because there was a suspicion he was going to get this job. And I have set him free to be able to tell people, give us your best ideas. We want people's ideas. We want to know what they think. But at the end of the day, no strings, no promises. I think the taxpayers will very much like that, at least unless they're a taxpayer that wants to have their snout to trough. Outside of that, they're going to like it.
Mr. Wray, can I give you a hypothetical? If somebody came to you and said it would be good for Ohio to have high-speed passenger rail, how would you respond to that?
There's been a feasibility study done on that, and it was pretty weak in terms of justifying high-speed rail, and it also involved an annual subsidy, and we don't think it's practical, and this is not the time for that.
Let me tell you the other thing he would say. John doesn't support it.
I would say that.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Listen, there is a train cult, okay? When I was back working in the legislature, there was a legislator from Toledo who, this guy was for high-speed rail back when this guy had a full head of hair, okay? They've been pushing this since I was young, and so there's a train cult. And secondly, part of the feeling in favor of these things are contracts. Engineering contracts, construction contracts, snout in the trough. If we are going to pull Ohio out of this economic spiral, we can't be in our own rice bowl, Jim. I mean, part of the problem we have is that this group wants to grab from this group, from that group. My greatest challenge is to lift them out of this. So we're not going to run some program here that, have some program that, some train call wants to support. I don't think anybody's ever called it that before. It's kind of a good, I think it's a good soundbite. So check it out.
From what you've seen, what will we be looking at in terms of money for new construction during the next biennium? Will you hit $1 billion in a season?
We should be able. There's been the stimulus money, and so things have sort of been muddled for the last few years. But in terms of the program funds that the department has, we should be able to have a contract program in the $1.3 to $1.5 billion range. A lot of that is not new construction, but rehabilitation of the existing system. But there's going to be capacity increases on a selective basis based on the track and the priorities for the state.
And is that your approach, rehabilitation of what we have?
We have to take care of the system that's in place first. That's a priority. You can't. It's like owning a house. You got to take care of it before you build a new room on it. But there's always going to be a need for congestion relief, safety improvements, and capacity improvements where there's changes in the infrastructure.
The state gasoline tax, is it adequate?
I believe it is. I believe it is at this point. Now, there's a lot of rumor at the federal level about federal gas tax increase. That's a whole different issue. At the risk of not offending the governor, I won't tell you what I think about that, other than I don't think it's a good idea. But I think we have to make sure we're spending what we have efficiently and effectively and doing a good job before we ask for more.
One more question. Bill, just let me say, the chance of the new Republican U.S. House of Representatives passing a tax increase would be equal to you being able to fly back to Columbus with wings. I saw you drive over, so you know anything is possible, but that's not going to happen. And look, I mean, there's a lot of issues connected to how we fix our roads, including prevailing wage. The prevailing wage drives up the cost of every construction project. It needs to be careful. I've never favored prevailing wage. That's something that the legislature is going to have to talk about. But look, if you can do more, if you can get more product at a lower cost, I mean, hello, that makes a lot of sense. So we will be pushing these kinds of ideas and getting as much out. The other thing is, I asked Jerry about rules and regulations. He was telling me about the bonding program.
Well, one of the things that we currently do is with contracts, we have liquidated damages for the contractor so that he has to pay fees if he's over a certain time. At the front end of the project, we also have bonding. That's really double jeopardy for the contractor. It's double insurance for the department, and we're going to look at whether or not we might need to eliminate one or the other of those, just to streamline the process and make it easier to do business. The contracting community, the consulting community, I think of them as our business partners. They're not the enemy. We want to work with them and make this a good place to do business.
How would you critique the direction ODOT has taken since you were there?
There are a lot of great people at the Department of Transportation. They're capable, they're professional. In some cases, they're being led one direction or another. I don't want to say anything that's critical of previous leadership, but we are new and we're different, and we're going to lead a different way.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
One last thing, we need to thank Judge Marceline.
Oh, wait a minute. And we need to recognize, where's Eva? Eva Wray. Give her a round of applause. I gave her microphones.
Marceline allowed us to use his courtroom on very, very short notice, and we really appreciate it, Judge. Thank you.